Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made the little box to hold these little Christmas tags. Now I'll do a separate video on making the little tags in the next day or so, but I've had several requests from people asking about basic box construction, and this is such a simple little box. I thought this would be a good place to start, and so I'm going to see if I can't explain to you exactly how to figure out how big your box should be based on what you want to put inside of it. So today we come up with that what we need is a piece of paper that measures 6.5 inches by 3.5. And then the question is, how did I come up with those numbers? And so I'm going to try and explain it to you, and I'll put all of the detail below as well. But I have printed out a set of instructions here, and I did this on purpose so that it would be kind of big print and dark, and then I'll go through this and you can take screenshots or whatever you'd like, and then this information will be listed below as well, and then you can actually follow along with me as I make this little box to get yet another way of looking at the information. So in order to figure out I'm going to see if I can't get this right up here where you can see it. I think you can see it there. Figuring out box dimensions on a simple box. How wide should my paper be? Well, the front of our box needs to be 2¼ inches, and that's because my tags are 2 inches wide. And so what I do is add the 2 inches that I'm trying to cover for the tags, and then I add 1/4 inch for wiggle room. So our first measurement is 2¼ inches. And I think you can see that. Yes, I'll make sure here that I stay on camera. And then we have to consider on our box we have a front face and we have a back face. So we need that measurement twice. So 2¼ inches plus 2¼ inches is 4.5 inches, and that's our first big measurement. Next, we need to know how deep the box needs to be. And what I did was I took my tags and I stacked them up, dimensionals and all, and I took a measurement with my little ruler here and decided that these tags measured about 1/2 inch deep. And so what I did was I took that 1/2 inch in depth and I added 1/4 inch so that I came up with the sides need to be 3/4 inch, the side here, in order to accommodate, let me see if I'm in there, yeah, in order to accommodate the depth of those tags. So, and we need that one twice because obviously there are two sides to our box. So 3/4 inch plus 3/4 inch is 1.5 inches. Then I need a piece in the box, and I think you can see it if I put it right up here to the camera, this little fold over piece here that's a tab so that I can glue the front and the backs together and have it hold together as a box. And that tab needs to be 1/2 inch. So here we go. We have our 4.5 inches for our faces, 1.5 inches for our two sides, and 1/2 inch for our tab. So our long measurement needs to be 6.5 inches in total. The next thing we have to figure out is how tall our box should be. Well, my tags are 2 3/4 inches from top to bottom. So I took that 2 3/4 inches and I added 3/4 inch because our bottom closure on this box has to match the sides, and the sides were 3/4 of an inch. So I've got my 2 3/4 of an inch plus my 3/4 of an inch, so 3.5. So that's how I figured out that my paper needs to be 6.5 inches long in total, and it needs to be 3.5 inches tall. Now, I'm going to show you how that works when we go to put this little box together. So I'm going to use my scoreboard on my trimmer for this. I guess I want it that way. And first I need to measure my 1/2 inch. So this is how you figure out the scoring. So on the scoring, I said my tab needed to be 1/2 an inch. So I'm going to score this first side here at 1/2 an inch. Okay, then I'm going to turn it around because it's easier to measure on this side of the trimmer. Then the next piece I need is, you think about the box construction. So I've got my tab measured. Then I need a side, and we know my side is 3/4 of an inch. So I add 3/4 of an inch, to the 1/2 inch that I've got here. And what I need then is for, let's see, how do I need to do this? So I need 3/4 of an inch. So I placed my first score line at 3/4 of an inch, and it means that 1/2 plus the 3/4 means that my score line needs to be 1.5 inches, and I think you can see that on the scoreboard here. So I've got my first score line at the 1/2 inch mark, and then I need to move that to 3/4 of an inch in order to get the next score line. So 3/4 of an inch. So now what I had was 1/2 an inch, and now I've got 1.25 inches. That's the 1/2 inch plus the 3/4. Now I need to add, so it was plus 3/4 gave me 1 1/4. So that was, my score lines are 1/2 inch, 1 1/4. Then I need to add my face front on there of 2.5 inches. And so, or 2 1/4 inches, pardon me, 2 1/4 inches. So now I have to move this down 2 1/4 inches, and it makes my next score line 3 1/2 inches. I hope you're following along here. So what I'm doing is moving the last score line I made to where I need to score my next piece. So I need this next piece to be 2 1/4 of an inch. So I move my score line to 2 1/4, and it makes my next score line 3 1/2 inches. So 3 1/2 inches. Then I need another side, which is 3/4 of an inch. So I have to add 3/4 of an inch to that. So I need this to move to 4 1/4 inches to add my next score line. So there we go. 1/2 plus 3/4 plus 2 1/4 plus 3/4, and I should have 2 1/4 left. Now, the only other score line, since the top of my box is open, is I need a bottom closure. And we know that the sides measure 3/4 of an inch, so that's exactly what I need. I need this score line to be at the 3/4 inch mark. So I'll set this at 3/4 of an inch and score that. And there we have our score lines. So my score lines for this are 1/2 an inch, 1 1/4, 3 1/2, and 4 1/4 on the long side, and on the short side I need my score line to be 3/4 of an inch. So that's the long side and that's the short side. One more time. 1/2 inch for the tab, 3/4 of an inch for the side, 2 1/4 inches for the front face, 3/4 for the side, and 2 1/4 for the back face. And then to close our box at the bottom, we need 3/4 of an inch to match the side measurement. And that's all there is to that. So you'll see that when we go through and finish putting the box together, and what I'd encourage you to do is just follow along with the video a couple of times, figuring out exactly what I said here, and then trying it on something that you want to fit. Now, regular box construction is you cut up the score lines to your first horizontal score line here along the bottom. And in this case, we don't need this little tab here. We can cut that away. And I'm going to snip off a little edge there. Now we have these tabs, and the tabs need to be notched here on both sides of the tab, and that's to make sure that your box closes appropriately and there aren't pieces kind of sticking up and out. And you get a much more professional look in your closure. Okay, so when we're done with all of that, this is what our box now looks like. We know this is going to be, let me just fold and burnish these lines so you can see how this comes together. Okay, so there's our box folded and burnished, and you can see that our sides now match, and this is the tab. This is the whole point behind the tab, is to put your glue on that and close your box around that, and then close up your box in the bottom, and there you'll have the little box. But before we do that, I want to take the front of our box, and this edge is going to be at the back here. So this will be the front of our box. I want to make that little thumb hole, and this is a 1-inch punch. And what I'm going to do is center that on this front face and just take a little half circle out of there. Now, to close up our box, we'll need to add a little bit of glue. And in this case, I'm going to use Fast Fuse. And I'm going to put glue along our tab here. And then I'm going to put glue on these little tabs here. Okay. And then as we close this up, I'm going to want to fold this front back here to give a nice even here. So on this tab on the inside, we'll add a little bit of Fast Fuse as well to make sure that our box closes securely. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do is fold this tab in and fold this across and just close it on itself. And there we have our, oops, I stuck the bottom to itself here. So that's what I get for putting all my glue on before I'm really ready. Let me get that apart. All right, so there is our little box formed with our thumb hole. Then in the back here, we're going to fold these tabs in and we put a little glue on those tabs. So we are going to close those on there, and then I put glue on this edge here. So I am going to close that along the bottom, and this is where you can take your bone folder and move it along the bottom there to make sure that everything's stuck together. And there you have a very simple, very basic box. And you'll see that my tags, and I made a series of 6 tags for this particular project, fit very nicely inside the box. There's plenty of room for them. They're not crowded, and they can be easily gifted to somebody after you do the decoration. And when I do the video on the tags themselves, we'll decorate the front of the box as well. But this will be the first in the series of box demonstrations. Like I said, I've had several people ask, one, how you figure out how the dimensions on your box, and how do you figure out some of the odd configurations for that. And so what we'll do is continue to work on boxes. I'll try and put one video up on a box construction every maybe once a week here for a while, until we get a little bit more and more complicated boxes, maybe boxes that close on themselves, and how to make square boxes with lids, and how to make reinforced boxes, and so on and so forth. But I thought this one would be a good start because it's nice and simple. And I'm going to lay this set of instructions back down here again. And once again, I will have all of these instructions right below so that you can figure out exactly what you have to do in order to do this. And I hope these instructions were clear. I'd love to have your feedback on whether or not this made it easier or more complicated. Hopefully it made it easier to figure this kind of box out. So thank you for stopping by and visiting my channel. You can order any kind of cardstock and many of the embellishments that I show here on my 24/7 shop, lbedinger.stampinup.net. And the drawing this month is for a bundle for the Santa bundle. No, I guess I don't have it real handy, but it is well, maybe I do. It is for the Santa cutout bundle, and I'll put the details below. And so it is the thinlits and the stamp set. It's a $39 value in the catalog. Also, if you make an order of $25 or more on my website, you get a product gift from me. So, and if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator and earn your business, or you could join my team. And I try to do a lot with instructions on different kinds of techniques as often as I can. And hopefully you found this one instructional. Thanks very much for watching again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.